Okay. Yeah, we want to let you know that this presentation is not meant to generalize all the beliefs of all tribes. There are so many different tribes, so many different languages, and a lot of times what happens is with the backgrounds, they will categorize them by language themselves. Theresa and I are from the Algonquin tribes, two different ones, well, actually three, I guess, but some of these teachings go back to at least 5 generations from our teachers. Next slide, please. Now, the purpose of this is to touch on a little bit about Native spiritual beliefs on other beings within creation. So a lot of times what happens is people think of teachers and healers and helpers also like within the physical realm. Like if we have a medicine teacher or something like that that's teaching us, healers, but also there are spirits. And these spirits too can be human beings. Maybe they once had a human life. Sometimes they might not have ever had a human life. But there's also those that come that are not always just human beings, but animals, plants, trees, stones. There can be various kinds and not always just from this planet in a sense that you might think. But there's a whole lot out there. And the reason that we kind of bring this up is because there's a whole lot of information that is not always correct in some sense. Some are stereotypical beliefs, and gives you a little bit of information on where some things come from. But also, a lot of people have this kind of information or whatever. I don't know what it is, but they say that in the background, a lot of times within the past, they think of some of the native tribes as like pagans or something like that. In reality, the reason why that we get help from the Creator and different spirits is because the Creator wanted us to build a relationship with other spirits as well. So it wasn't just, going to these spirits. These are the spirits that the Creator sent to help us to work with. And realizing that we are not alone and that all of nature, our brothers and sisters, our ancestors, grandmothers, grandfathers, things like this. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so with this, we talk about a lot of these teachers, healers, helpers are not all, like I said, just the Creator or spirits of people, but include stones, animals, birds, directions, colors, plants, elements, and of course, we get a little bit more time. A little bit later, we'll talk more about the little people. Also, some other things that people might be interested in. Also, with here is that medicines are given by the Creator, or the nation of that plant or medicine itself. They decide if a certain medicine or a gift is to be given, not man. Now, there are people out there that would say, I can make you this, I can make you that. Let's say you can go online or whatever, read about shamanism, or maybe there's even people out there that got little things on newspaper and said, learn to become a medicine man or something like that. Well, they can give you knowledge, but they can't give you the gifts. No person makes another person a medicine person. It depends on the Creator and the spirits, and those spirits that allow that person to have that. And they can be taken. One thing is, one of the very first things I ever learned was that people are tested first. They don't just give it and then test you. A lot of times they're testing you before they even give that, because they wanted to know whether this person can handle that. Because sometimes what happens, they might be too egotistical or use it in a bad way. So a lot of times those things are taken into consideration before they're actually given. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so here we talk a little bit about, in a sense, the medicine wheel. Now, of course, we have 7 directions, and there's also maybe some people talk about 6 directions, 4 directions. Some people just go by a circle. Not all tribes have a medicine wheel. Now, me and Theresa are going to kind of go back and forth here because some of our teachings are a little bit different. Some of them are very, very close or very much the same. So would you like to start this slide out, Theresa?
Sure. You'll do the slides though. You move them.
Well, yeah, I'll go. No, don't. Yeah, I'll talk. We'll both talk about the slides.
Okay. To me and my ways, I'm Menominee on my mom's side and Anishinaabe on my dad's. And I go Anishinaabe ways. That's how the dreams came and my life goes. So in those ways, when we look at the medicine wheel or the 7 directions or 4 directions teachers, we see the north, the east, the south, the west. For us, it starts in the east, the sunrise, the beginning of the new life, the spirit doors in the northeast. And that's Wabanum, then we have Jawanum in the south. And then we have those grandmothers, Manaduke, that sit in the south as well. And in our teachings, we will see that life walk from south to north and east to west being the spirit walk, spirit door. All of these doors and spirits that are around those doors and within those circle teachings are all spirit beings and Manaduke and some of them animal beings like eagle, owl, and so we go on to the west and into the north. And in the north, we have those grandfathers as well that sit there, those Manaduke. And they're all our teachers, they're all our helpers. And they are also healers in different ways. And without them, we would be lost. We have many stories from each one.
We lost her.
Are you done, Theresa?
Pardon?
Are you done with that slide?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, go back to the slide, please. Okay, so a lot of times within these directions, they also have, in a sense, different meanings. But if you look at each one of these, the north, the east, southwest, they all have, in a sense, a grandmother and grandfather who stand in those directions. For instance, the winter. The winter comes from the north. It's where it's cold, in a sense. It's where old knowledge is kept and wisdom. The east, in a sense, they teach about things that, well, that's where the morning comes from. The sun rises up there, but it also brings in healing. Also represents spring. The south represents the summer, heat, and fire. The west, it represents the unknown, because a lot of times that is where we come from and where we go home to. Also represents autumn, beginning and end. Even though we walk a life within a circle, we have that upon earth in a sense because it's spinning. But also it's a direction in a sense that we're born and return to. So there's, in a sense, there really is no death. It's only life or rebirth into the spirit realm. And it's the same way from there to here. So it's a rebirth and death, in a sense, our life here and there. you kind of pass one way to be born to the other. So it's a crossing from physical world to the spirit world. Okay, next slide, please. Okay. You want to go first, Theresa?
You can go ahead, Sean.
Okay.
I'll cover what.
Okay. Okay, so a lot of times people talk about a medicine hoop. The way I was taught, there are two hoops. One is the medicine hoop of the 13 grandmothers. The other is the medicine hoop of the 10 grandfathers. Right now, we're in the time of the 13 grandmothers. They're still part of the hoop of the 10 grandfathers, still here, because as time goes on, we go from one hoop to the other. But over time, there's like a crossing point, and that began to cross like in the 1990s or so, and where the grandfathers were passing powers over to the 13 grandmothers. And then when their time is done, it'll go back to the 10 grandfathers. In the time of the 13 grandmothers, and remember, these are all spirits. These are not human beings. This was actually part of the prophecy of the 13 grandmothers, that they would come back one day. So I'm sure one day there's going to be a prophecy of the 10 grandfathers. So the 13 grandmothers come in a time of change. They come in a time of cleansing. During that time, in the beginning, women will begin to take charge. You'll see them leaders in the world, changers in a sense, that begin change to things the way it should be. And as you've seen from the 1990s and on, we began to see more and more women becoming leaders, becoming healers, spiritual people. And we'll keep seeing that more and more. It's their time. Theresa, go ahead.
In our ways, we have a teaching, a prophecy about the time of the women. Waking the men up is basically what it is. A lot are taking it in a different direction because of where they're at, but it is the role of those grandmothers that and how their spirit is when you're with them. To us, there's 3 grandmothers that sit in the southern door and 3 grandfathers that sit in the northern door. So those grandmothers, when you're with them, they carry old wisdom as well. But the kind of old wisdom they carry is different. And the feeling you get when you're with them, they will give you recipes for cooking, and those meals that you'll assemble will be actually nutrients for flus or for ulcers or for high cholesterol, whatever your problem is. And it'll be exactly what you need, the medicine and the food. So those grandmothers will be there for you. And they sustain that life. They're at the bottom of life's walk, where also we have that circle teaching with the women and the water and life and the bag of waters. So it's all interconnected there. And we need that support for life for those grandmothers. But it's also how we carry ourselves, the kind of hearts that we have. How do you feel when you're in front of a grandmother, but a great grandmother? In this sense, how they are to us. So some may see them as angels or something like that. In their ways of seeing it, a really special being. So we're to wake up in our men again and help them heal, to come together as a people. There's no one. We need each other to stand together strong. And so the women were to rise up in this time, wake up in this time, and come together in this time, and to start that healing process, that waking process. But the women did, and those grandmothers, they can also be stern, and we can see that in the summer winds, in our summer times, And those medicines can be just strong and powerful, but not spiteful. So it is normal for our people to be talking to these spirits and having a constant communication with those spirits. Sean?
Okay. Also, what goes along with this is the 13 grandmothers will be working very closely with Mother Earth. A lot of their time is to help to cleanse Mother Earth during this time. One thing we need to remember is that it comes like with the water, in a sense, in cleaning water. Let's say you had a tub of water or 2 tubs of water. You put a bunch of oil in both of them, plastic, whatever it is. You have a group maybe around each tub. One tub, they're only praying for the water. The other tub, they're actually cleaning the water with, netting or anything like that to take it out. Well, they both represent, in a sense, a physical work and a spiritual work, but they must work together in a sense, because that is part of doing your part in a sense, upon the earth. If you only pray, it may take longer in order for that to be done than also cleaning it. So that's part of those things that come into play when you think about just prayer. Think about just things. There are certain things you have to play a part in order for work. Oh, I guess you couldn't hear me, did you? I don't know how much you heard.
It just cut out for a second, Sean. We got most of it, just that last couple of comments.
Okay. Okay, so next slide. Okay, so there are elements of this. So within, I don't know, the universe, Earth, also within every stone, and there are certain points within the body that people hold certain gifts, or in a sense, pockets of energy, or almost like a battery source within a person is they have fire, water, earth, and air. Fire, in a sense, a sacred fire for a very long time has been about men creating that fire, making that fire. It was more of a man's duty to be able to do that. And as a young boy growing up, when he was able to make this fire, like the old way, is part of the way he was to become a man. And you'll see today a lot of the women, it's their way is to bring that water and care for that water. But you also see that women, when they're childbearing, they carry water with them as well. Earth, Mother Earth, our mother of physical form. A physical form was made upon the earth, made of earth, and placed life into. Now that's a natural thing. It's like nature. The creator, in a sense, brings the air. He's our father, puts the spirit into this being. When we pass into the other world, the physical form goes into the earth, back into the earth. The spiritual form goes back to the creator. Now, also within this, part of that teachings is when the eastern door, right before it started getting light, there's a certain point where this person walks around the world in a sense, and he brings the breath, he brings the air of the creator. The creator's breath walks with him in a sense, cleaning the air, bringing that new air, and we breathe in a sense that we breathe the creator and the creator breathes us, gives us that life. And you'll see that within the earth, when women are having their moon time, in a sense, their menses, each time they are directly connected to Mother Earth. And that's part of cleansing. You see, that's why the women come to cleanse, and Mother Earth is to cleanse. In a sense, they are connected to that Mother Earth very strongly during that time. Okay, Theresa?
Okay, I heard the audio isn't the best. I've been trying to fix that for you. Is that better?
Yeah, it's a little better.
Okay.
I'll let you know if it cuts out again.
All right. Thank you, hon. I tried to hop it on from my phone. So for us, we do, it's as Sean said, how is this divided? The women that carry the water and the men that make the fire. But we have that sacred bag of water. So again, it continues on that way. But how do we carry that water? And those grandmother spirits teach us a lot of that, but so does a lot of other teachers. Our water of our body, of ourself, how it's what we mean by sacred. It's your thoughts, it's your daydream, how we carry that water, what we're feeding it in our breath. And to come in that pure way is what we mean by that. And then when you come forth to that water, when you're doing that water ceremony, or to work with another person, or to carry within your waters when you're pregnant in that womb, to carry those good, healthy, pure of heart and thoughts, to keep your environment around in a sacred way, in a good way. And then when you carry forth, it can change the water that you're going into. We have that connectivity to it. So to understand that when they talk about the power of a woman in that time, it isn't negative. She's not going to be toxic, and she'd be scared to touch items or things, but to carry yourself in a good way, to know those good truths. And the men in the same way with that fire. Our Mother Earth is also a spirit being to us. And again, how she makes you feel, or how you feel in her presence. And so when you go into those spaces, like anybody who can make you, fill a space, it's where it takes your heart, where it takes your thinking, what comes. And so she's able to work with you in that space if you're open for it. And she has so many teachings, messages she carries and passes on, hopes and warnings and things like that as well. So again, we are in constant connection and conversation always with these different spirit beings. And we go to them for many different things, whether it's healing or what's coming or how to prepare for the next season. But it's also to give our thanks, to recognize that those beautiful beings were thinking of us and pitiful us and coming in to help us to know what to do in all these different situations and support us. So to always have that support out there and thought of is amazing. In the air is our, like he said, creator, our Father who brought us our spirit, is in his breath, those exhales that he has, we are inhaling in the air. So that air is sacred. But it's also what comes out. So when we're exhaling out, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, we're putting that out there as well, but so is Creator's breath. So we're able to connect in all kinds of ways that they gift us, but it's also a breath of life, our first gasp. And what are we breathing in? Who do we take in first? And where do we come from? And then where do we go to right away? And our mothers take us when we're born. So again, the cycle and that fire those men make to warm that baby. But I'll pass this on to Sean. You glitch again.
Okay, next slide, please. Go ahead, Theresa, you can start with this one.
We have in our ways also underwater worlds. And there's worlds within worlds within worlds, and our teachings, the circle, teachings, the circles within the circle. And the underwater world is another world within our world here, but it is connected to the outer world for the most part. And in that underwater world, there's teachings of the Panthers, the Jaguars, the little people. We have the water spirits. We get those spirits for the water drum from those different areas that are willing to come and help. And the sturgeon teachings, a lot of really old teachings. There's some bad ones down there, it's the balance, but there's these good ones. And they really help us out with healing, with teaching again, with counsel, with understanding. And they gift us so much protection as well. They've given us so many stories, our prophecies. We have under the water comes the Miga as well. And we had our 7 generations teachings and our migration journey. So the little people, I think, is one of my favorites to talk about, the water spirits, the water drum, and that sturgeon as well. I don't know too much about the Jaguars and the Panthers, but they have all been tremendous helpers. The little people have come and protected our children, and they still do. There's all different kinds of little people, and they have different roles and personalities and characters. They do come from Star Nation and also from the underwater world. Some of them, some. There's different kinds. These ones, most in the underwater world, contain and protect and keep alive the connectivity to some very old knowledge. And some of them are also looking into future, and they're looking at all of that. Their constant counsel on things. So to get to work with those little people and to share their space when they come about, they decide when they're going to be seen or not. They're all different sizes. So, and then we have the water spirits. There's again all different kinds of water spirits, and there's also water spirits that are like Manadoog, male and female. There's trickster ones, and they're also teachers, helpers, protectors. They're the ones that help to make special medicine stones, and they do that down in the water, and we birth that stone and then bring it forwards for our people with teachings on it, messages on it, maps on it, all different kinds of things that they gift us. So they're at constant work for us still today, and they're still gifting us. They're still in constant contact, connecting with and reaching out different ones of our peoples for different things with their gifts. And if you're in the place of your path, walking your path, and it's that time, these things will come together. The water drum is a very healing drum, but it's also a protector's drum if maybe medicines were put upon somebody that altered their own life waters. So anything that the water can connect and reach through, which is just about everything, the water drum is great for. We get a lot of the skin from the drum and things like that would go to the animals, beaver, otter, and some of those, the oils for the drum, and the actual wood for the drum, where that would come from. So it depends upon the teaching and what the individual was shown how to make it and why. Why to draw from a certain tree, to use that wood for the drum, or to use that animal's skin. Why are they bringing that animal in? So it'd be those teachings of those beings. So they talk to those spirit beings, and those spirit beings are going to help them along the way with why they're willing to step up and help. And because they're going to be a part of that, they're going to be stuck with that drum, with those people. So you build a relation with them back and forth. It's a duality. And the sturgeon is a very old one. He's the bottom feeder, and he can go in and out of these different worlds. But he is so close to the belly of Mother Earth, but also through Star Nation on the spectrum of the circle teachings. When you open that circle, it becomes linear. And so the balance on one end to the other. And so sturgeon is right there by that doorway between there. So sturgeon has a lot to do, is a protector. Some people say how he looks like a dinosaur, but sturgeon's character. So we have a lot of blessings, and this is just a few of them from the underwater world. We get a lot of medicines that come up out of it, and the little people also know about those medicines. So they carry that on as well. They'll lead you to them. They'll show you what to do with them. when to use them, when to gather them, all of those things. They're constant teachers if you're paying attention and helpers um, and protectors in that sense also. They have gone after bads. There's stories we have about some of them throwing fireballs and things like that. So, you know, if people are saying, you have clients that are saying things like, they've seen this little person and he threw a fireball or threw a bolt of lightning, that may be probable. and that little person may have been protecting that individual or a family member of theirs. So it's normal and it's good, and they're being thought of and watched over, and that they're loved, and to put a little dish out for them, and to just share a little bit of their meal. No big production. You just share a little bit of your day, your meal, your treats, your drink, and you give that to them. Put it outside. You'll know a little spot, and just tell them thanks, and whatever's in your heart. That's all. It's not a big production. They're doing the same for you. And I'll pass it on to Sean.
All right, thank you, Theresa. Yeah, so she got quite a bit in there. There are what they call underwater panthers or underwater jaguars. A lot of times they are around water. A lot of people, there's a lot of different stories about them. Not always, in a sense, do they always look exactly like a panther or a jaguar. Sometimes they have like a reptilian type shape. A lot of times they say they're very fearless against pretty much all things except for one. We'll get into that later. But one thing about this is that the sturgeon within our beliefs is he is the king of the water spirits. One thing about what they talk about, the king of all these different nations, they each have one, and their ability to do things is far greater than usually the rest of them. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, then we get to the stones. These, I really like talking about this, but they're the oldest physical things in creation. I like to call them the librarians of the universe, in a sense, because they carry knowledge from the very beginning of creation. They were there in the beginning, and they're still here. Nowhere in the world can you go where there is no stone. They're both male and female. One gives birth to the other. When we have a large stone, whether it's male or female, if it breaks in half, the other one is, if it's a male, then the next one's a female. And they keep going on and on and on like that. So you'll see there's pretty much a balance within creation of these stones, just as there's a balance in creation of male and female within nature. That is something that's very old, and something, this balance is very important. Even like during ceremonies or anything, if you have some kind of like a ceremony with fire, you usually have water. Or water, you have fire. If you have something with earth, you might have water. That's something very important. Like, let's say you're smudging, it's fire and earth. If you're using a shell, it's water and air, because the shell carries this breath, in a sense, that life force. Theresa, you have anything?
Teresa, you're on mute.
Thank you. The stones he went on about, gosh, there's so much with them, and I didn't mean to be punny about it, because of how much knowledge they carry. There's so many different types of stones. We use grandfathers, certain types of grandfathers, different ones for our healing lodges, so a naming lodge, things like that. Lodge for seeking information, things like that, teaching lodges. But there's also these stones that the water beings tend to make. They call them concretions. And those stones, oh gosh, there's so many unique ones. We have the rosebud medicine ones that help with fertility, Mother Earth ones with her creation on it inside of grandmother womb, grandmother moon in her womb. And on the other side of the stone, you would see Mother Earth when she was a child being held by grandmother moon. And so it shows interconnectivity, the layers of the sky. The stones will have all these things mapped out on them. This one shows, I don't know if you guys can see. Stones like this will show history that happened and a war up in Star Nation. It's a map. So they all have different histories, teachings that go eons back, some of them. And some of them will teach us about what's coming. Some will tell us the story of the area, the history of the area. It depends on what they want to share with the individual. But these are very old teachers. Some will appear in the spirits in them that are sharing those teachers or those protectors or stones that protect you as well. The spirits in them. The spirits in them can die too, so you care for them as they care for you. And not to forget about their care, not to forget about what they do, not to forget about including them in your meals and in your thoughts and what they've done in your gratitude when you're thinking at night before you go to sleep. Think about all those helpers that came and are staying as a part of your world and life for now. That stone is how old and will go on after you if you care for it. So, but they're great helpers, and they are very patient for the most part. Some of them are a little stern as well when need to be, but they're knowledgeable. They see through, and so those stones that we use in the lodge, when we heat them up and we bring them in, they'll open up and they'll share in there sometimes some teachings for you. So it's great, these beings. They're very, very, very old and very knowledgeable. They contain homes for multiple, like the little people, some live in them, and in some of the stones. So to take extra care. We would never take the stone unless it was told for us to take it, and it didn't mean it was ours. We just cared for it, and what came. And sometimes you were just carrying it on, and you're going to pass it on to who it did go to, and you'll know when that time comes. So, and it doesn't matter to keep it either. So ego is never involved. We are always just listening with open spirit and being shown what comes. And taking those lessons, we would pass them on with our elders. What came, and we'd sit with them, and they'd look into it as well. And then more lessons may come. Miigwech.
All right, thank you, Theresa. Next slide, please. Theresa, would you like to go with this first, or it's up to you?
How's my volume now? Is that
The
good?
volume is good. It almost seems like it's like crackling up at some points, but I'll let you know if it starts doing it again.
Okay, thanks. So the sacred pipe, since the stone is hard, it can last for a long time, plus having access to the knowledge and abilities. It has been used for pipe. All the pipes will know how a person uses one, much like a phone to others, it connects to the creator. The pipe and the stem is a balance between male and female, just as in nature there is a balance between male and female, one which man has forgotten in most cases, and the two spirit are a reminder of this balance. Bad medicine users long ago were afraid of women's moon powers because they could take their gifts away. Mother Earth's cleansing power on Earth and take away bad medicine. For us, the pipe, we do have pipe, stone pipe. And that pipe is only found, that stone is only found in certain areas. But the bowl in our teachings represented the female portion of the pipe and the stem, the male. And that's what they're talking about when they talk about the male and the female coming together, and how they can stand together stronger when they're together. But the bull, the female, can stand alone if made in a certain way. And not all pipes were made of the pipe stone. There's other stones that were used that came to the individual to use or sacrifice itself and said, I am here to be your bowl for your pipe or for somebody else you might be making it for. So yes, a connection to creator, the breath that comes through in and out of that pipe. And so it's not just the stone at that point. You have that spirit being that comes with that stone in the area and its circle, all of those beings within its circle that are with it, that may also be a part of that pipe. And then you have the stem of the pipe. And so that also, what material you took that from, the spirit being that is with that material, plus again, who is in its circle and in that area. So all of those beings can be coming with that pipe. So what do those beings do? What are their roles? And so that all was a part of why a pipe was used and what it was used for. There's so many different kinds of pipes. Some are personal, some were for your family, some were for naming, some were just for prayers for the people, some were what people might call a peace pipe, but it's not. But it is to maintain the balance and restore the balance and the harmony within a community. And so that would be a warrior's pipe. And because they were about that peace, they were some of the greatest with compassion and love and understanding to be able to do what they did. So, and yes, and then there's the story about the women's moon powers, the bad medicine people were afraid of a long time ago. My dad would share that story with me, and it talks about how the Mississippi was created in the tears of Mother Earth. That are down by the bottom of the Mississippi that go into the ocean area, because man was doing this at the time. They were afraid and got jealous and tried to push grandmother moon away. So it was that kind of time of creation story that our people have that goes back that far. So it has always been recognized all the way back of our connectivity too. But again, the balance is in everything, and ego is not to be there. So as much as woman has all of this connectivity, so does man, and he has the other end of it. So we need each other, just like the pipe teaches us. We're stronger together, our prayers together, we stand together. It's an equal thing. So to remember that, but to uphold ours. So when we think about the pipe, again, in those teachings, if you imagine the male part or the female part having to uphold more, how long would that pipe be able to hold those prayers and contain those messages until it's finally going to break or have some sort of impact to it, where you can see the damage that was done. So this is what happens to our relationship between man and woman, and then the medicines that would have occurred from. Those also are altered. So the pipe teaches us very much. And but I'm gonna let Sean cover some more.
All right, thank you, Theresa. As Theresa was talking about, there's a lot of different teachings within various different areas within around certain areas, and a lot of teachings may be covered in different parts of many of these different areas, because you'll see that if you look at, in a sense, one teaching, which might be a group of teachings. Now, think about that as every star when you look up into the sky at night. Every star, in a sense, has teaching or a group of teachings. Now, let's say you took a constellation. A constellation has a group of, in a sense, teachings around certain parts. Each star is kind of equally important. No one star is more important than the other. Those stars must work together in perfect harmony in order to, in a sense, do the right thing, in a sense. So in taking that up, it's like, if there's one teaching about this says this, and another teaching says this, then you must be able to put them together and work together in order to come up to a conclusion. You can't just pick one over the other. Now, Theresa brought up some things about like bad medicine and how those long time ago had influence, in a sense, certain beliefs of today to either inhibit good ones, good people, good teachings, or to stop those things that may affect themselves, like the negative aspects, in a sense. That is something that's very common within different belief systems, because not everybody always has the older teachings which said this is the way you do it. There are different things out there where people have influenced that over time. Now, if you look at, in a sense, the Mother Earth with the 13 grandmothers, it's a very old prophecy. And a lot of that prophecy comes from the Algonquins. Also, if you're looking at that, is the seventh generation that comes from the Algonquins. The first ones you can see written about it was the Mohawk. They had talked about the 7 generations. That is also a prophecy, and it's been for a long time. Now, you can see people say, oh, these kids are all 7th generation. But that's not always true. You can have one whole generation, is not every one of them are 7th generation children, because they don't come all at once. They come in groups. You also have teachings about the prophecy of the Rainbow Warriors. The Rainbow Warriors actually came before the 7th generation. They came in a wave before the 7th generation, and then the 7th generation came behind them. The 7th generation been coming for at least 2,000 years. It's just over time, more and more come. The more pure ones are towards the end, in a sense, because they're the ones who are going to be, are not meant, in a sense, to have to overcome hardship like that. They're the ones who's going to have all that love and stuff like that. And I kind of believe we're still waiting for many of those ones. Okay, so within that, it's also, sometimes they have different things where clans say they cannot have parts of another clan. Like, for instance, there's some teaching where people say, well, since you're a bear clan, you can't have anything from a bear. But looking back at our ancestry, we'll see our ancestors who were from the same clan wearing them bear parts. They knew a long time ago. So you'll see over time then, it's like how there was an influence there to try to stop that. Because if you're in a certain clan, you derive some of that powers and some of that gifts from that clan itself. Of course, you would want something from that clan that'll help you and that you have access to immediately. And a lot of times that's for protection. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so here you'll see there's different kind of designs of pipes. A lot of times what you see is the T pipes are for men, and usually the L pipe is for women. And I say usually because sometimes a male may need a woman's pipe, or a woman may need a man's pipe. But there's also specialty pipes. In a sense, there are pipes that you use for a certain reason. Like, take for instance a thunder pipe. Has connections to the thunder beams, lightning, and things like that. But it's also considered a war pipe. But it's not necessarily for war. It's for protection. it's kind of different like that. It's for like defense or for protection. So then you also have, like, it's just like natural springs within the earth. When you have a natural spring with water coming out of there, that's, to the natives, that's considered holy water. It's considered sacred because it's pure. It's coming right out of Mother Earth, just like as a woman giving birth, in a sense, the womb and bringing the water forth. There are other pipes that, you know, they're like Star Nation pipes and different other pipes, bear pipes, pipes for certain kind of nations and things like that. A lot of times these are stone and wood, and that's very important because you're using both. The pipe is considered female and the stem is considered male. When you put together, it's the balance between male and female, like I talked about earlier. It's very important with balance within creation. Theresa, you have anything?
Yeah, the going back to the Bear Clan example also, and then moving forward back to the pipes, which it kind of fits. Bear Clan, I know I've heard this before, even with my people, had some male Bear Clan members come and say, I was told that I can't have anything of Bear Clan, like the bear skin or the meat or the claws or the brain or whatever. And I said, that's not true. When you think about if you are Bear Clan or whoever your clan is, that's your family. And if my brother, my sister, my mother, my great relative of the family that contains all this wisdom and love and history and can help me to venture through life and has the same understandings and perspectives that I do on things and gifts and can help me with those, then of course, if something happened to a relative of my family, I would carry that close. I'm going to carry my brother and my sister. I'm going to carry that great one's part or piece. But it's not you that you go and hunt them. It's maybe a car hit them or somebody else got them that can eat that meat and needed that medicine of that meat or the oil from them or whatever medicine they needed as to why they took that life. And we would think of our Bear Clan brothers and sisters within our people. We would gift them the medicine parts of that brother. Of course, you're going to go to that clan members, those clan, and say, hey, we are out getting your today, you know. So we have these conversations. We have this consideration and regard, but it comes from a place of such love and thoughtfulness and for each other's life, no one greater than another again. And so the same thing with the animals and their spirit. And sometimes those animals will ask and request of things, you know, so we have to follow through with that as well. The pipes, yeah, a lot of this is the same. But there's also like, you know, like you said, there's so many pipes, like the grandmother pipes, the naming pipes, and things like that. So there is specific pipes. They're all tools to help us to connect. And depending on the spirit with that pipe, there can be kind of a runner, a bridger for us. So if you are so swamped down by whatever, physically, psychologically, spiritually, you know, or within your family, within your circle, we have all of these different tools, all these different spirit beings that we can pull upon that resonate with us and our gifts, and we're able to then connect. So there's always a way to connect to Creator or to connect to another Manadug or to get our prayers sent on or to get message brought in when we're seeking one and need that. There's always a way. It's a tool, and those beings are what we're working with there. So it's a normal, natural thing. It would be unnatural not to talk to them, not to recognize them, and not to hear from them in some capacity, however your gifts work and that you're open to at the time. So that's all I guess I'm going to put on that one, Miigwech Sean.
Next slide, please.
you want me to start on that, Sean?
Oh, sorry about that. I was muted. Okay, so we're going to have to kind of move a little bit faster. We're not even halfway. So with here, get to the second portion with the animals. Now, a lot of times when we look at animals, trees, everything like that, they are our brothers and sisters. They're placed here to help us. They're also, these are help to feed us and to guide us and teach us. Now, you have to think of, and this one here, me and Teresa's teachings are a little bit different here. So we can both kind of go over that. You can see them both in a sense and see how different things are. Not all animals were always animals. Some of these used to be people. Like, for instance, a wolf. A wolf is a person who has passed every human teaching, in a sense, or test, or things they were meant to learn upon earth. And then they became a wolf. There are, you have to remember that the physical portion of and the spirit are not the same. You may see a physical form of an animal and a spiritual form of the animal, but they may not also be, they might not always be the same. There are those who will see animal, animal. There are those who might see animal, human. So the spirit of the animal, they may see it from another lifetime saying, oh, this was once a human. This is their form. Now, depending upon how you see that with the, spirit, in a sense, with your spiritual eye, these can be very different. Was there? Okay, so these two also walk with us in a sense. There are different animals. We have different kind of like teachers or guides or spirits, different things like that that walk with us. The animals also bring their own gifts in for healing. They can also guide us, and a lot of them are for protection. So there's different ways of seeing the animals and what they really do for us. It's not always the same. Okay, Theresa?
In our ways, we have animals, like he says here, brothers and sisters that are here to help us, and they sacrifice their lives. It's all a part of talking with spirit, that constant communication when our hunters or our fishers go out. They're talking about that and to spirit days before, if they know they're going to go days before, and they're asking for that life, and that life will, that being will give their life, will step in front of that hunter or the fisher for the people. So they do give us their medicines, they do help. We try not to waste that life. But we also have our clan animals as well, and or winged ones or swimmers, whatever it may be. And then we have, like he said, it could be a human being at one time. We have relatives, because we all have spirit helpers, animal helpers, that may come in physical form or in spirit form or both. That though later in life, when you pass on, your animal helper, maybe it's a squirrel, a red squirrel or something, will come in and let you use them to visit family, slow family down, maybe run out in front of their car and say, slow down, and you'll feel that relative for some reason, and then remember who their helpers were. So, they are always helping us and guiding us and sharing their lives with us in one capacity extremely to the next. So we regard them with that gift that they give us. But they also teach us so much about how seasons, how to run through the woods, healing. The bear comes in and heals us. Oftentimes, many of our people have dreams of a bear chasing them or something like that in a dream, and they'll be pretty stressed out when they woke up, but the bear might not have been chasing them. Oftentimes, that bear is right behind them, and is coming after whatever is why you're running in the dream. And bear's taking care of it. So, and they also can physically doctor you as well. They can heal physical ailments you have going on the inside. Hummingbird might come in and be able to get into those deepest reaches within you and pull little things out of maybe like a cancer tumor out of your brain or something like that. So there is all kinds of helpers that we have today, and we've always had them. And these animals are great to us. Again, we would not be without them. So we're greater than them. And it could be a human, it could be a Manitou, it could be a great spirit being that is using that animal at this time, walking around and checking things out. So we'd seen each other for their spirit form on the inside and recognized them for their outside as well. But we first saw people for their truth, and we would see the animals as those other peoples in that way. So, and I'll help us to move on.
Okay, next slide, please. Theresa, would you like to go ahead?
And I think I just covered a lot of that. Animal helpers, the spirits as messenger. This is more common in the past. Many people observe animals for insight, yet also in paying attention to the animal spirits in which walked with them as teachers, healers, and helpers. Many animals are known for their ability to heal people as well as protectors, especially within the spirit realm. So they do that also in the spirit realm. They'll be with you, or you'll see them standing guard. They protect the doorways, different various doorways, and they will look within your spirit and see where you're at. And it will determine when you go through that doorway what goes on within. But they're also there to help you, to guide you down those pathways, to help you use their gifts to be able to work through that realm, to be able to see, feel, hear, fight, protect, whatever it is you need. They are there to give, and they are giving. So I'll pass it on to Sean.
Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so you'll see here common messengers in a sense. You'll see like a red-tailed hawk. A lot of times, you know, a lot of people think, oh, this is a bad thing or this is an omen or anything like that. But you have to remember each of these are actually just messengers. They bring about the message. A lot of times red-tailed hawk may warn you of danger ahead or something like that. The coyote is kind of the trickster. You have to remember also within this are physical and spiritual. The two can be very different. The physical form, in a sense, when it comes around, even though it may not know it's bringing the message, it is bringing a message, and sometimes bringing a message of its own kind. So, like a coyote represents a trickster, so you should watch for things that are going on right now or might come up just ahead, so you'll be careful of that. The eagle, in a sense, can be bringing healing. It can be bringing a purity, peace, or anything. An owl, and of course, a lot of people, they always say, oh, the owl, it's gonna, you know, bring in bad messages. But you have to remember, it's a messenger. It's not there to hurt anybody, especially this physical one. It's telling you what's happening. It may not even realize what is there, but the spirit does. And the clouds, of course, sometimes within the clouds, I mean, if you really have this heartfelt prayer and you pray, you might see what you need to see within the clouds. To spirit as well. Good, Theresa.
In our ways here, yes, red-tailed hawk, red-shoulder hawk, barn hawk. There's the primary and the subclans. They are all healers, helpers, and teachers and messengers. The winged ones are messengers for the primary part for us. Coyote is not our trickster, but can be. We have stories where coyote was used. Eagle, of course, is our messenger, and in our teachings, we had our primary clans, Crane and Loon, and Eagle. It was Crane or Loon, and for our primary clans, and this is on your average good day when everything is going smoothly in our communities. We'd have Crane or Loon leading, and if both of those could not lead for whatever reason, Eagle would step up. Eagle is the one that can go on both sides, fly from here to the creator, to spirit world, go right to him, the only one that can go through that way. And so we often use Eagle to carry those messages up, our prayers up. And our prayers aren't always of asking, it is sometimes giving thanks or asking what we can do for help and guidance in our path and our purpose, and maybe what we need with that, maybe some clarity, maybe whatever, some tools, some protection, but what do I do next? How do you want it done? So we may be passing that message as well, and Eagle may be coming with messages. Sometimes Eagle may fly over and be bringing messages that you may have asked for a while ago or never asked for, but your heart did, or Creator just saw fit. Owl on the other end of the scope with the circle teaching, and again linear, when you open that circle up, Owl is on the other end of that scope. Eagle being in the east and Owl in the west. That's that spirit doorway pathway. And Owl does beautiful gifts. We have a lot of stories about Owl Woman, and she turns into a physical form and goes back into Owl. Our many encounters with her within our communities, with our people. But she is there to help you with that crossing over, give you warning, give you message, give you time to pull it together, to make your prayers, to help that spirit carry on. It's out of love. And again, yes, we would, in our ways, traditionally, and many of us have a lot of love to give back to them. And we devote our lives that way, right back and forth. It's a balance, it's reciprocal. And then we also have the clouds, our messengers at Sky Nation, and a lot of them are like uncles, but there's all different age of cloud beings, sky people up there. And they're definitely messengers of all sorts. We would also know our tribes or our clans if the clouds are coming in, say from the east, heading over in the morning. We might see what's going on. How was their night through the clouds? That looks like they had a rough night because of the clouds coming our way. So we might check on our brothers and sisters over there. They let us know of impending doom, that another tribe might be coming in, and it is going to cause us some problems. They might be telling us it's time to get our things together, or it's harvest is coming, or seed planting is coming. So they're constantly teaching us and showing us when we pay attention to them. So it might not be a child drifting off. It might be a child learning and needing some guidance and assembling what they're seeing up there. And if we listen to that child and not try to feed them what we think they're trying to tell us, then we end up getting to learn a lot, because those children to us were very wise and connected to spirit that way. But I will pass this back on to Sean.
Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so Dodem. Of course, we have different teachings about this as well. The Dodem, if you look at the word totem, the totem derives from the word Dodem, which is not as many as always have become to know. The Dodem is actually a spirit that lives within a person. It does have the ability to wrap around the person in order to protect them. It's also helped to guide a person internally. A lot of times that this used to be very common, more knowledge, but a lot of people forget that sometimes those protectors don't always live outside of us, but live within as well. Okay, Theresa.
I wanted Sean to go ahead on that one. He's got, I think, the older teachings on it. What I have from Dodem and what I understand. So this is my personal. The Dodem in the Great Lakes area, more towards the western end of my people's migration area, is how they will introduce themselves, and that is what they're referring to as their clan. In our ways, our clan is your family. That was technically what some people would call your surname or last name. This is those closest to you, but we're related through spirit in our clan. Those similar gifts, similar broad understandings, whether it's turtle or bear or wolf or eagle or loon or crane, personality, behavioral things like that, that we would have similar to each other. Todem, I believe, and it's been altered a few different ways, from my understanding. One, there are people are saying it's a dialect, but we also are noticing things with the French fur trader times. A lot of our language was corrupted at the time, but totem then people would be referring on the Ontario side, more towards the east of our migration. That's how they refer to it, and they would say it's language, but a lot of people think of totem poles. And we put our clans, our spirit helpers, depending on what came, to put on your clothing, in your beadwork, inside your pouch, things like that. And it may be something of your Dodem, of your clan, of your helper. So that is my understandings on that, and how I go by it. I'm Eagle Clan primarily. So my gifts go around that way, but I have many helpers. So I acknowledge them just the same. And to me, they're brothers, sisters, and everybody that I've ever come across, the elders and others with those teachings, also had many, many helpers. But Sean's teachings are going a little bit more in depth and back. So I refer back to Sean.
I think you're still muted, Sean.
Do the next slide if you need.
Move another slide.
Miigwech.
Next slide.
Next slide. Okay.
Okay. So this portion here goes upon individual experience on Earth. Now, part of this has to do with before we were born. A lot of times what happens is we already know what we're coming here for. We go through, in a sense, this, I don't know, kind of like a chat with the creator before we come back and what we are here to learn. A lot of times it can be things we want to learn, but a lot of times it's more associated what we have to learn, what we need to learn in order to grow. So if we, in a sense, this is a good example. If, like, let's say you look at, there's a children's book. It's called, let's see, The Little Light in the Sun or something like that. This person comes to Earth. He wants to learn forgiveness. But in order for him to learn forgiveness, when he comes to Earth, there has to be something for him to forgive. And a lot of times it's going to be something very hard for him. So over time, he learns to forgive. If you want to learn patience, of course, you're going to have to go through something that you're going to have to learn patience from. You're going to have to wait. So a lot of times that's part of the reason why I say is like, be careful what you prayed for. I like to say that you might just get it. And I'll let Theresa move on with this. Go ahead, Theresa.
So to me, in our teachings, from what I understand, we all, when we're being created, have this moment with the Creator. Like he said, before our birth, when we speak with the Creator, we make kind of our requests, what we want to be a part of, what we're interested in. He sees our gifts and our interests, our talents, our abilities too, and we kind of talk about our life that way. What it'd be like in our jobs, what we'd like to help out with. It wasn't that you're making a deal to be here. It was something that you wanted to be here for, and you wanted to help out with. You wanted to be a part with. You had a passion for. And so some of us may have been people before, may have been an animal before, we may have been a star right before this and came in and said, let me be a part of this creation here. So that is our, like you said at the very end there, choice. You can go ahead and move on.
Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so as you can see here, there's various different spiritual helpers, you know, they could be our teachers, our guides. A lot of times they may be our ancestors. They can be grandparents, grandmothers, great grandparents, grandmothers, so much even more so, even from a time before we can even remember, or even our ancestors might remember. Of course, angels, animals, they can be ancient beings. They might be weather beings, kind of like the thunder beings or something like that. Star Nation, the plants. You'll see there can be a lot of different ones. You'll see at the bottom here, I talk about grandmother and grandfather, Munadug or Munadug. Ours language is very close, me and Teresa's, but the way we pronounce it and write it can be very different. So she would say Munadug or Munadug. I would say Munadug. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so there are other spirits the Creator has placed with us for us to realize that we cannot do everything on our own. It was done with the purpose, of course, in order for us to work with all these different spirits and the physical animals and everything within creation, the stones, the trees, plants, animals. I mean, they all have their gifts in a sense to be able to help us. There are certain trees that can help with the mind. Their stones can help with many different things. They carry a lot of that knowledge. It's why they're used in their sweat. Theresa, do you have anything?
Yeah, I would just wanted to add that all these other spirits, like he's listing here, have a purpose, and it is also to help us, right? So we are seeing ourselves in constant communication with spirits. And as he's showing that there are so many different types of Manitou, Manadug, and other spirit beings that we can go to no matter what their body is in, a rock, a plant, a tree, the sky, the water. And so we have all these sources to go to for help, and we are in constant thought and communication with them. So that is a normal behavior to be, and it's needed. It's needed so we can do our job and they can do theirs. We all get to be.
Okay, next slide, please. Okay, next slide. Theresa?
This one's water, land, sky, thunder, lightning, fire, and its animals come from their own nations, yet also differentiated by the four elements, weather or in combination. So to me in our teachings, that's the circle within circle teaching. So the interconnectivity. And they're often all connected in one, like Sean said earlier, interconnected. But they have their own circle, their own space, their own worlds, their own elements. And so their own needs, but their own what they're coming with, right? So we do have those thunders, and there's all different kinds of thunder beings, thunder birds, thunder clouds, like he's listing here. The thunders come in the winter as well as snow. Not every snow is the thunders, though, in our teachings. He's got the frogs, the turtles, the reptiles, and again, Sean was sharing not too long ago, teaching that is similar that we have about the bullfrogs and them calling in the thunders. So not always when you hear a bullfrog is that what's going on. Sometimes it's a bullfrog being a bullfrog, but the water, the fish, the dolphins, the whales, the stones. Again, he's got the stones in a lot of these here because they are separate entities and beings that have their own worlds, their own placements, their own gifts and jobs and knowledge they contain. So to seek out what you're looking for in the area would be to follow that circle, and you find your way that way there, and you'll find the other elements that you might didn't realize you need that will be there, because this is where they go. Miigwech, Sean.
All right. Next slide.
Want me to start with this, Sean? I'll start with this one for him. The eagle and the owl, many have forgotten the relationship between these two. A lot in where I come from, the owl is given a bad rap as he goes on. We see owl and we think right away there's going to be somebody's going to die. And it's the messenger of death. And that horrible owl, I didn't want to see that owl. And I myself was that way for a long time until I developed a better relationship with Owl Woman. And seeing the beauty of the gift. And we fear the death, we fear getting that message, but it is the gift that she's bringing forwards, or he, depending on which owl has to come and bring the message that's nearby and is willing. But sometimes it is always death. Sometimes we fear change as much as we fear death. So they're just trying to reach you in your capacity. And so they have my dad would say the owl is the night eagle. So that relationship between the two, they're similar messengers coming from and back and forth to Creator. So they have a rough job, they do, but they have more than death that the owl does. But eagles, it's the changing of the guards. The eagle has the day and owl at night. Go ahead, Sean.
Okay. Theresa, did you go over this part?
Yep, I just went over it a little bit, and we spoke on, but not the snake. I forgot to talk about the snake. I did eagle and owl, and not about the snake and snake story, the bad rap about how he used to have legs. But I'm gonna let you go ahead then.
Okay. So part of this portion here is to talk a little bit about, of course, the eagle and the owl, and how these two are brothers, actually. In a sense, you can look at it as one of the owl is like the eagle of the night. And the eagle is the owl of the day. They both have their own job. So a lot of times people think one is bad or something like that, but actually they're both good in a sense. Although a lot of times what happens is the reason why people think they're bad is because, in a sense, people have used them in a bad way. So that's where a lot of that things come from. Okay, next slide. So in a sense, we look at here with the bear. The bear is known as really strong, powerful. He's also our brother. Now, they say that the bear was once a human being, and that like with it, if you're in a bear clan, you normally cannot kill a bear unless it's protecting yourself or somebody else. A lot of times somebody in a bear clan are known as leaders or healers. There are many powerful gifts, of course. Also, part of this is under the bear teachings comes the teachings of a turtle. Okay, next slide. Okay, underneath the turtle here, you'll see that this turtle, there's 13 larger plates on top of a turtle. These represents the 13 months of the year. There are 25 smaller little portions around the outside. The old teachings that these are various moon cycles, but they don't really see them today. There are 12 larger plates on the bottom. Now, so you have 13 on top, 12 on the bottom. Now, long ago, it's like a lot of indigenous people around the world followed the 13 moon cycle of a year. So, but what has happened over time is that people with the calendars or whatever made a different calendar. It follows 12 moon cycles. So what that really is doing is putting the indigenous peoples on their back. So they can't move, they can't defend themselves, they can't help themselves in a sense. Now looking back, it's like way further. It's not just indigenous people around the world, but even if you look at the writings of the books of Enoch, he counted the days and years and the months throughout a year. And when you read that, you'll see 13 months. 1 month is a little bit shorter than the others, something like that. But if you look at also the beginning, let me see. Okay, so this month, at the very beginning of the month, there was a full moon. Now we just got done with a full moon. So you see this month here is the one with 2 full moons. That's kind of interesting that way when you see that. Is because what I've been telling people for years, 1 month has 2 full moons, not 1. Those are the months. Okay, next slide, please. So within this, you have grandmother moon. A lot of people have heard that before. You have phases of the moon. You have full moon and half moon. But a lot of these different moons have different teachings with it. Of course, a half moon is a very good time for, in a sense, passing through from one world to the next. It's just like if there's different spirits or what they call ghosts, in a sense, spirits that are caught here. It's a good time to cross them over to the other side, to where they're supposed to be, so they won't be stuck here. Now, this is kind of neat, is that there's some history that goes along with this. Let's see here. Oops. Okay. This is also a particular time to be watching out, in a sense. Full moons. A lot you've heard a lot of people act up or things happen during the full moon. Looking at it from mental health aspect, in a sense, you'll see that they've known that the full moon affects people. From European folklore comes the werewolf, the story of a werewolf, which a man turns into a wolf-like creature on the full moon. Luna is an Italian and Spanish word, but it's given with Latin origin. Luna, or you might hear lunar. This is where the word lunatic comes from, because it has to do with how the person acted on the full moon. So you might like that piece of information. Pretty interesting. Also, somebody had brought up about the snake, in a sense. The snake to our tribe here is that the snake is a protector. They protect our medicines. You'll see also that they use it with the medical field as the wings and things like that. But they also say to be careful of the snakes because of what it represents. But at the same time, it's like you have to remember the physical snake and the spiritual snake are different. The spirit is usually where it may be used badly against people, in a sense, like if people who did bad kind of medicine type things, that this to say, but has to do with like, because there's really no bad medicine. It's how it's being used. So that's where a lot of that comes from. Is so many people have used the snake and the owl in ways they should not have. And that's where a lot of that comes from, with people saying these things are bad. Theresa, you have anything on the moon?
For Grandmother Moon, in the phases of the moon, we have also the way I'm taught in Seen and Learn to Be True, the new moon. And we see the new moon as a spirit moon, more of a spirit time. But the full moon, the way we would see how people act out during that time. Full moon is cleansing. When you think about some of the medicines are pulled, they're more potent or finally potent enough. And depending on the medicine or the being, it might be their sap, or it might be up in the leaves, up in the bud, up in the flower, down in the roots. And so she's also pulling on us as well, our waters. And she's trying to cleanse, pull what's out of there in the waters that aren't good. But if we are holding on to something that is not good, then we are at war with ourselves, and it kind of comes out and translates as lunatic. You're off balance. You have a natural balance occurring, trying to pull out, whether it's up in here, down in here, trying to pull this out of you, and you're holding on because you haven't, and you might not know what it is yet. It might be buried down so long. So that's what's going on. That release is trying to happen, and the fight is happening for us, is what we see there. And then real quick on the snake, we have a teaching that in Snake's creation story, that snake once had legs, and the negatives, the bads, tried to pull on that snake, and Snake fought and fought and fought. Snake really did not want the bads and to go that way and be pulled that way. That Snake wore all his legs off trying to fight, and that's the way Snake has no legs no more. Snake is closest to the earth and the medicines, can go into the bear's den, things like that. Snake has a lot of gifts and does a lot of protection. And like Sean said, it's how a snake is used. And the same thing with these cleansing times, these times of the moon and the phases. Also, what he spoke on about that extra moon, the 13 moons and the cycles, these also are our ways. This is our calendar year. Your real birthday would fall under, in your child's birthday or your loved one's birthday, the moon they were born on during that moon cycle phase time. So if you re-looked at the map and you looked at the calendar, it would actually fall the same time every year, how those cycles go. But according to the calendar, you'll see your birthday changes because it's not a consistent cycle, the 12-month calendar. So it's not your true birthday, folks, sorry. But that's how we would look at it, those events, those times, those moons, and what was happening, what was going on. Those spirit moons is really helpful during that time with the spirit door. It's another doorway and pathway for those with those gifts. And I'll let you guys move on. Me good, Sean.
Ella, could you move three slides ahead, please? Okay, thank you. We really wanted to be able to get this into here. The little people. Now, a lot of times, it's pretty interesting because I've always been, I really like this. It's because across the Americas here, wherever we speak to other tribal members, they also know about the little people. They have seen them, they have their stories about them, so many different teachings about them, something very common, but not the teachings in a sense aren't always the same. There's a part of the creation story, one of the creation stories that they have for natives is that long ago, we were not always human beings. We first began as spiritual beings. And as we were then, our whole goal was to become as much like the Creator as we possibly could. And we wanted to be just like the Creator. So that's what we drove for. That's what we wanted to do. And so they had gotten to such a point, nobody needed to talk. They were above wants. All they did was to do what each person needed. Everybody knew what everybody else needed. When one person knew something, everybody knew something. But it got to a point one day that they said, wait a minute, one person thought, wait a minute, we're not growing anymore. And all of a sudden, everybody knew it. And they said, yes, we're not. So all of a sudden, everybody gathered. And they looked up and they said, Creator, we realize we're not learning anymore. We're not growing anymore. We're not evolving anymore. And all we've ever wanted to do was to become like you, or as much as we possibly can to become like you. And then the Creator says, you're right. You have stopped evolving. There's only one way that you can evolve any further. And they said, what is that? We'll do anything. They said, the Creator said, in order for you to grow any further, you must become a physical being. All you have known is good things. You've never had to deal with all these things in a physical form. So in order for you to grow further, you must become a physical being and be born upon earth. And they said, we're willing to do it. But they also knew that if they were to be born upon earth, they would forget everything they ever knew. Once they were born, they would not know who they were. They would not know why they were put upon the earth. They would forget that they ever wanted to be like the Creator before that. And that was their drive. That was their love. So they said, they decided amongst themselves. And they said, you guys go. You go ahead and try to learn this. Us, we will stay back and let you do that. But we'll be there for you to remind you every day, as much as we possibly can, to get you to remember what you're here for. That what our goal is to become as much like the Creator as we possibly can. And they said, okay. The other ones went to, we're going to be born upon earth. Those who stayed behind gathered, and all of a sudden they shrunk down and became the little people. So those, when we see them, they're actually our ancestors. And they're there to remind us of what we're supposed to do. And if you see gifted people around medicine people, healers, stuff like that, you find more little people there in those areas than you do with others, because they were there reminding them, hey, remember what you're supposed to do. Remember what you're supposed to do. And they come to help them and to guide them through that in order for them to grow further. So that's, in a sense, that portion of that part of the little people. Theresa, do you have anything?
I think I spoke out quite a bit on them earlier. I'll let you move on.
Okay, next slide. Okay, so this part we want to get into kind of really quickly, I guess. From what we know is that there are three main little people. Now, these are very powerful ancestors of ours. They can protect us. They can do all these things. There are different sizes. There's one that's, taller than the rest. It's kind of like a monk, like a teacher. The next size down is a warrior. They're there to protect. And the smallest size is not as well known, although they are very powerful. There are other types, in a sense, that people can find, which is fairies, in a sense. Not everybody gets to see them. Not everybody gets to see everything that there is within the world, but there are so many different commonalities within spiritual realms of all the different beliefs around the world. It's just that today many things are divided by religions, in a sense, but spiritually many things are the same. That's, in a sense, where they all kind of combine. And you'll see that so many different things, even though there's different tribes, different languages and different beliefs and ceremonies and everything, the spiritual realms, in a sense, those different things are pretty close to the same. Okay, next slide. Okay, now this is the one we wanted to talk about. Now, we talked about with the Star Nation spirits, there are so many different ones that not everybody have always known. Now, I like this because part of this is the lily pads. Within our history, they have known that historians and stuff, wherever they find lily pads, because before the lily pads were all on the East Coast, and wherever they find the lily pads is where the Meskwaki have been. And we carried them with us everywhere we went. So they had to have been very, very important to us. So they would grow them in each areas that they've been in. And then it comes back to where we are now, and they're around here as well. And once before there wasn't any. But part of the Star Nation is what they call Bigfoot or Sasquatch, Yeti, things like that. Even though these are considered Star Nation spirits, they were once a human being, and that they had left with other Star Nation spirits to go learn. But when they came back, they didn't realize his time was different then. So when they got back here, all the people they've known were gone. And they thought they'd only be gone for maybe 2 months or so. But in that time, it was long enough where generations had been gone. And by the time they got back, they were saying, "Who are you guys? We're looking for our people here." And they go, "Oh, them people. They've been gone a long time, but there are some of their ancestors live further north. You can go talk to them." And finally, when they talked to them, they asked, "Well, why are you coming here?" And they said, "Well, we left long ago." And they said, "What? What do you mean you left long ago?" And they told them the story and said, "You need to talk to our elders. I think they have a story like that." So they went to the elders, and these were generations later where they still had that story of when they left, and they wondered why they never came back. And they talked to him and said, "Wow, what took you so long? Why didn't you come back?" And said, "Well, we did, but we didn't realize the time would be different. So we came back." And they knew that they had learned so much and had become so much different in learning all these different spiritual things, higher levels of learning and gift of healing and all these things, like we're moving through dimensions and things like that. So they said that they would stay around, but they would go other places because until they're needed. So that's, in a sense, has become part of the spirits in a sense that natives might utilize. During the times of sleep or hibernation, when the bear is gone, they say the Yeti, the Bigfoots take their place in those ceremonies. Okay. Theresa, you have anything?
Yeah, he's basically covered very similar things. In our Star Nation lodges, some of them did one time be human, some were not. Some are like a Manadoog or something where they come from. And so we do have the Star Nation lodges in certain places and different types of Star Nation lodges as well. And they do come and help us. And they teach us so much. And white water lily, yes, I didn't know that part about Meskwaki, but I believe it because they were through this area before we were in our migration journey. White water lily is a story about, just brief, it's not the whole story, but she came from Star Nation and did love to hear our stories as a people as we gather along the lake, and eventually joined us. And we now have this, really making the story short, but she became white water lily, and she's many different medicines for us, specific medicines. But she's here because she loved hearing our stories, and she came from Star Nation as well. So go ahead, Sean.
Okay, you can go to the last slide. We really want to thank you all. I know there's not much time left, but if there's any questions, go ahead.
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I can hear you.
I sent a message, and I don't know, I couldn't tell if my chats were going through or not, but about an experience I had with the eagle. It was strange, but really beautiful and comforting to me. Like, so one day at lunch with the COVID, you know, we try to stay separated, and I always drive down to our cultural grounds where we have the powwow, and I kind of hang out down there. And so I was driving down there, and in the tree there was an eagle very close to me, just sitting in the tree looking at me. And so I stopped and I sort of talked to the eagle, and I had a place where I could park right there. So I parked right there, and he stayed with me all through lunch and just looked at me, and once in a while moved his head around a little, not much. And and I felt so good. And people would go right by in a car or walk by and they didn't even see him. I would point it out to people, like, look at the beautiful eagle. So about 4 days later, I was driving downstate Michigan, and I'm way up in the UP. And I had my son with me, and we drove by this spot where there was like 8 eagles in this tree. We counted them, this whole family of eagles. Some, you know, some were the bald eagle and some weren't. But so, I mean, I just felt I was so excited, and I felt so special. And I asked a friend of mine about it, and he said that he thought, and I know I'm blathering on now, but he said that he thought my family spirits were visiting me. But so I just wondered what your thoughts were on that after hearing your, and by the way, I love owls. I've always loved owls. And so I liked what you said about owls. And I had an opportunity to have one in my yard for like a week, and nobody that I know died. So I'm not sure what the message was there, but so I'm just throwing that out there. I'm sorry, I'll stop rambling. Can you hear me still?
Yes.
Okay.
Good, thank you.
Did you have any comments on that about the eagles?
To me, where I come from, it depends on the tribe, and it depends on the teachings of it. Whereas, you know, one's a trickster, one is not. The rabbit maybe is a protector of children, and with another people is maybe seen as both the trickster and not the trickster, as being bad and good. So depending. So what your messages were is not for me to look into. I'm sorry. But I do know we see that sometimes you'll get to see them gathered together, and it's a good time to get to sit with them. And definitely you may think you have a message for them, and you may end up getting one, and then your thoughts are taken somewhere else, you'll find. And as your thoughts are taken there, you'll find yourself praying, but as you drive away, you might have found yourself a little more refocused and letting go of some other things. So they're wonderful gifters, those ones. Be great.
I also wish I had tobacco to give you.
You can always place that out wherever you're at.
Okay, I will.
Yep, that's what my dad would always say. You can place it out wherever you're at.
Okay, miigwech. Wonderful stuff. I want more.
Well, if there's nothing else, thank you all for being here. Thank you very much. Okay, I guess Randy Bonelli will be offering the closing blessings.
Hello, everyone. I just want to thank Steve for giving me this opportunity. And, you know, I've always been taught that when you're asked to do something that you don't shy away from that. So, you know, I just want to thank him for this opportunity and offer you a humble closing prayer. You know, and thank you, Creator, for allowing us to be here today to take part in this webinar, and want to thank the presenters. They did a fantastic job. And Creator, we also want to recognize everyone that's not here with us today And we ask you that you watch over them, especially those that are sick and afflicted. And we ask you to watch over us as we go about our day, about our lives, that we will carry these teachings with us to practice them in our lives, and to also carry on with them in the work that we do in helping our people and healing them, as well as healing ourselves. And we ask you, Creator, at this time, as well as to be with all those who are in need. And as we know that there are many who need a lot of help, both physically as well as mentally, and our country as well, as we enter another season of leadership. We ask that you help us with that, and that you heal everything around us that we talked about, the animals, the vegetation, the trees, the mountains, the universe as well. We're thankful for that, Father, as we ask you this time, in this day, this moment, this afternoon, that you look all upon us and give pity upon us, as we are not greater than you. We are just individuals here trying to do the best we can in sharing what we know and trying to give back. So, Creator, we ask you this day to be with us, to be with all of our relatives who are everywhere, who are afflicted as well, and that you will touch their mind, their hearts, and their spirit, that they'll be regain strength and be energized. And those that have attended today will gain from the energy and the strength that they've heard as well from the presenters. And again, we ask you for these things humbly, Creator. And as they say in my language, Hajonahastli, 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 Hajonahastli. Thank you.
Thank you.
Miigwech.
Thank you, Randy. I want to thank everyone for attending today, and certainly I want to thank Sean and Theresa for sharing their knowledge, wisdom, and information with everyone. Have a good weekend, and stay safe, stay healthy, and stay connected. And we'll see you again here for our next broadcast. So again, thank you, everyone.